like to move the extended warranty contract from consent to action. Get a little back on it.
With that notation, I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes, and we have two sets of minutes. The August 13th board meeting and the 20th August workshop.
The only issue I got with the minutes is that I'm pretty sure I didn't make all those motions, but it's not a big deal. But so, other than that, they're fine.
Yeah,
It's all at
all the
once
consent
now.
agenda items are listed in the minutes as
Individually?
separate motions.
Okay.
That's why it looks like it's
Okay.
a bunch of work.
Wow.
But I was thinking,
And you get paid by the motion.
oh, do you?
Sorry, no.
Okay, did somebody make that motion, Eric? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment period. Anybody wish to address the board this morning? Moving on to the consent agenda, with moving number 5 down to action items. Is there any questions or anything you wish to discuss before approving the consent agenda?
Donna just explained those pool pads.
Do you want her to address us about it as a board?
Maybe that would have been nice to have that, but.
I did meet with her last week about it too, so, because I saw it on the agenda. You want to see if Donna wants to?
She's walking right back.
Oh, Donna, we would like you to explain the hotel.
Oh, sure.
Pool pad, not full pad.
Yeah, at the moment. Pat.
Okay, good morning.
Warren?
Okay. The full pad's been around for a while. We have 87 counties, and I believe about 67 of them have the full pads. They really like them. What will take the place of is the roster, that when you come to the polling place and you're going to register to vote, and instead of signing the roster that they have in front of you, the judges, they will probably fill up your name for you, and then you will just sign it, and you get a receipt and give it to the judge, and you get your ballot, and you're done. Another advantage to that is uploading the information after the election is over. Larissa is currently scanning all of the rosters and the names afterwards, and it's like every single page line, she scans it and it uploads it to the Secretary of State's office, and it tells them you voted. And so that will eliminate that process as well. The one thing that we were thinking about doing is uploading information at the actual polling place, but it was determined, our IT guy, Andy, he didn't feel comfortable with doing it there, so we asked if it could be done afterwards at the office, and they said absolutely yes. Some people just do that too, so we're okay with that. Like say if you hadn't registered to vote and you come to the polling place, you could do that there as well. You could just like normally you put your information into the system, into the poll pad, and then you could just, your information would be uploaded as well to the Secretary of State, so we wouldn't have to do that either. So like if you hadn't registered to vote yet, we could do it at the polling place when you're right there. So that's gonna eliminate a lot of entry as well, for Polly. That's what she pretty much does, is registers the people who have not registered to vote, put them in the system when she uploads information.
So backtrack on that.
Yeah.
So new registers are gonna be doing it on a card still, or you can do it on this?
New registrants?
Yep.
Yes. You can register to, put your registration information into that machine.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
I think you should also explain that we did get that equipment, election equipment,
Yep.
grant for $10,000.
Correct. That is the mega grant that was applied for back in 2017 and 2018. At first it was supposed to be used up at the end of 2018, but they extended that they were going to extend it through August of this year, and then they put another extension on it to the end of the year, so through December 31st. So the $10,000 was earmarked specifically for the poll plans. And the other equipment grant that we got was used for the DS200s, and that's been all used up. And if we do not use the $10,000 that is allocated for the poll plans, it will no longer be there for us to use. We will also, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, what will it cost beyond the 10?
The cost for the cost of the poll plans period, or,
Yeah, I mean, how many of those are we're gonna need them?
Okay, we will be able to purchase 10 poll pads. The cost per unit is $1,280, and the total amount is $12,800, but there's a couple other additional, like, small charges involved. So the total is $13,015. So of that, we have to match 25% against the grant in order to qualify to get the grant, to use the grant money. So we will have to pay $3,253, something like that, of our own, $3,253.75 of the county's money has to go towards these poll pads.
Okay, and the poll pads will be at various locations throughout the county.
Yeah.
So do any of the municipalities have any responsibility to pay for it?
Technically, the $3,253, if the board wanted me to, I could divide it all out, but I talked to other counties and they said, it's gonna, I think it's gonna save us time in the long run. We will not have, for the first year, we're gonna have to print out the rosters just because I think, or for the first time, I should say, they're gonna be a little bit, on edge. And we do have to provide some type of a backup, and the normal backup will just be a reader's list, will be a lot less printing. But I think for the first time, we're going to go ahead and print the rosters just because, but we won't have to print them in the future because that's going to save us money and time, and the uploading is going to save us a lot of time. So in the long run, most of the counties passed this information on to me that they felt that they, because it's a grant,
Responsibility.
that they're not going to charge the cities and townships.
Question I have, we're getting 10. We've got 17 townships, we've got 6, 7 cities, with multiple precincts in a couple of cities, so who gets the poll pads, and are the townships stuck with just doing it by hand like always?
Oh no. We're going to
There's like 4
we're going to
townships.
get
in one.
the 10 to start with, and that we will probably, if the board approves it, we'll probably get poll pads by say November. Okay, so then I think it's in November, the state of Minnesota has passed this information on to the counties that they will be getting another grant for 2020 for more equipment. And they said they've assured me there's money out there, so we're definitely gonna get some money. So the fact of the matter is, I believe we're gonna get more monies allocated for more additional poll pads. And my hope is to get another 8 poll pads, and that would allow us to give, because each, they kind of say like 1 poll pad per 500 to 1,000 voters. So I'm kind of going, like, I think McCrescent P1, P2 should probably have at least 2 for each precinct, possibly 3, but we're kind of, we still have to iron that out a little bit more, but, so my plan is to get another 8 next year.
Still gonna leave us short, I mean, what, next year we'll have a general election.
We'll have 3 elections next year.
Right, but I mean-
Primaries and 1 general.
I know, but with the general election, that's when most of the voters show up. But with the 17 townships, 2 precincts in McCrescent, 2 precincts in Caledonia,
But
and the other towns, I mean,
they also have shared polling places.
yeah, but that doesn't,
So what you're saying is that like in our township, we share polling places with 3 other townships.
Right.
So we're probably gonna get maybe 2 pads there maybe, or maybe, and so then
Right, correct.
then you're gonna have a registration station for them to register.
Right, you can go.
Doesn't matter
even if
what
you're sharing-
township they're from.
Correct, because when these are programmed and set up, they're going to be programmed so that that machine knows that we're dealing with 2 different, different precincts in a shared polling place. So I will have that all set to go and programmed before we even begin. So you can share that, that device, the polling pad, and you can still,
This is gonna be a learning curve. This is gonna
It
have to be a
will.
lot
It will.
for people to get used to. And I
Correct,
think
yeah.
in the long run, it's gonna be helpful, but it's gonna be, Trust me,
I think you'll be surprised.
it might get picked up, as but the older generation are gonna have a little difficulty with it.
Right, it's gonna be a learning curve. Most people, if they see the computer, they're gonna, oh my gosh, but, for the most part, the younger generation, I mean, it's, everything is done on your phone.
how many registered voters do we have in Houston County?
I'm gonna, 17,000, 19,000 comes to my mind, 17,000.
Overall population's
Yeah.
18,000, they aren't all
Yeah.
registered voters, there's kids in there, so it's less than that someplace.
Yeah, and, go ahead.
You're gonna have to insert all of that registered voter information into these pads. And it isn't gonna just automatically transfer.
It will be already programmed in there. It's gonna be all programmed all in there.
Pre-programmed by the state.
Programmed by us, the county here.
So you're gonna have time invested in programming. I mean, you're gonna have to go through all the registered voters and
Well, it's easier than that.
I don't see how it can be.
Okay, well, when you, and like I said, I haven't done this yet, but you obviously, we're gonna hook onto the Secretary of State's office, and we don't have to like enter them all as separately, because no. It's gonna be all up, yeah, push a button and, yeah. And,
So you'll have to know this poll pad is for Caledonia and Mayville Townships.
correct.
And there's an ID number for each of them or something.
Correct, but we do that already with the DS200s. I mean, with the DS200 machines, we have to have all that stuff all pre-programmed before it even starts. So we have to know, exactly, we have to tell the Secretary of State's office has like a wheel, so to speak, of all the calendars of what we need to do for all the elections. So as soon as I go on to the Secretary of State's office and tell them that Houston County is having a presidential primary, the wheel starts going, and it's all, the calendar is there, and you have to go by that calendar and program your machines, get your cards programmed. It's all pretty much automatic. But we definitely have to, we're on a timeline, and we have to, the Secretary of State's office has all of the information, because they've got all the registered voters, right, Larissa? I mean, every time someone moves within Houston County, it's all entered in all year long. We enter in new moves, new information. That's done pretty much all year long, and when the election comes along, they are on the, they're in the program.
So, I probably wasn't clear of the last question I had about, so like new voter registration, somebody hasn't voted for, or hasn't voted in Houston County before, they come, they still have to fill out that card? Or can they do it on this pad?
They can do it on the pad.
Okay. Is that's gonna be time consuming, isn't it then?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I did,
So but you don't have to do the card anymore, or you can still do the card? I'm just trying to find out.
you won't have to do the pad.
Okay.
But still can if they choose to.
You'll just go into the,
Right. Especially the first time.
yeah, and like I said, I'm gonna be trained as well, so we're gonna learn a lot. But I think I mentioned to a couple of you earlier, there's a little card insert on the machine that you can put a driver's license in, that you can put your driver's license on,
Right.
and it will read your information. I'm thinking, this is on top of my head here, but if, like, let's say, for instance, if you are a new registration, I would probably use the driver's license
That would,
information.
you just punch that in there and then
It'll scan it.
Scan it?
Scan it.
just scan that and it'll all come up and then
Yeah.
bam, you're registered.
I'm
Except
sorry.
for those people that just moved into the county.
That haven't changed your like driver's license, that's not
Yeah.
gonna work, no.
Yeah, and like I said, there's gonna be a learning curve, but it's, I think in the long run, we're gonna be very happy that we've got these poll pads. Right away, I know there's programming involved, but once you get that down, it's gonna be a lot easier.
Now, one question.
Mhm.
Theoretically, what is the overriding advantage to this? I've missed that.
Yep, okay. The advantage is not having the rosters to sign in and uploading all the information automatically to the Secretary of State. And I'm like talking realistically one button to press. And so when the machines come back to the county, press a button, the information all uploads to the Secretary of State's office. You, all you guys that you actually voted at your precinct.
And previously, that was not how.
By hand.
Manually.
It takes me days, by hand, to
Okay.
write out by each, I can edit each one individually, by hand, page by page, beep, beep, beep.
Okay.
That's how it's done.
Huge.
Now I understand the end game.
Now it'll take me 2 seconds to upload the entire county.
So that information that that we're giving the Secretary of State's office now is all manual, so this will be all automatic. When we all get everybody's machine, get them all situated, it should work pretty slick.
Any other questions before we approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I just wanted to point out, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to point out, thank Joe Allen for his service for the Highway Department. He's been with us for 8.5 years. Sad to see him go, but moving on to better, bigger and better things.
All in favor? Opposed? Now Bob's name will be after each one.
I got that figured out, thanks to Eric's question.
Monetary. Okay, moving on to action items. Consider approving the 319 feedlot grant with Goodhue County. Amelia?
Florida.
Morning.
So this 319 grant is basically the same thing that you saw last summer. With the disbanding of the Southeastern Minnesota Water Resources Board, they needed new administrators for each of their grants. And Goodhue County picked up the 319, and so we had to kind of start back over with the contract process. And so then this new contract reflects that. We have about $27,000 left to spend, and then that term runs through the end of August of 2021. Anybody?
27,000 out of a total of
It was 9, around like 31,600, I think.
Pardon me?
31,600 originally. We have done, part of that was, this year was, or last year I guess, was, there was a new section where they needed a priority list made, and so the Soil and Water District worked on that and identified Thompson and Money Creek as priority areas. And we've done, they just have a little technical assistance covered already, so that's where a little bit of funding is.
Now, has the funding remained basically the same, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, all they, as far as between last year and then this year,
That's correct.
yeah, whatever we have out there is transferred over to the new contract.
And Amelia did work with Sam to review this contract also.
That's all.
Yeah, Sam and Pat have reviewed it. So,
I move we approve.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
thank you.
There was a lot of pages to read and they were all sideways.
Oh, sorry about that.
Sideways and upside down, but
Yeah.
we got through it.
It can be a challenge.
It's a little bit challenging, yes. Number 2, consider approving memorandum of understanding for evidence-based family home visitation. John?
Good morning. Is this on?
Yep.
Okay. So today, the main thing we need to do is approve a memorandum of understanding between Houston County and Rice County with regard to this family home visiting evidence-based grant that we recently received. But I thought it'd be a good time for us to maybe just give you a summary of what that project is about and the opportunity we have. So, a little history of home visiting. Family home visiting has been something that we've done through public health for quite some time. We've got a strong history in that area. Mary Zaffe in particular, one of our public health nurses, does just an outstanding job. She's really a leader in that area, has just a deep level of commitment and skills in that area. As a result of that, we've enjoyed real solid partnership between public health and our human services, children's services folks in particular as it relates to family home visiting. Generally, we will identify families that would benefit from ongoing, consistent visits from a public health nurse, families that are at risk for any number of reasons. And so we've got a real strong foundation for this. It's something we've done and we've billed third parties for some time. In 2018, Rice County established a 7-county collaborative approach to what's called evidence-based family home visiting. We were not part of that initial project, and a little bit about evidence-based. For a program to be considered evidence-based, it needs to be based in research, and so there's a pretty painstaking process that verifies that the curriculum and methods that are used in a particular program show efficacy. The state is really encouraging counties to move in the direction of evidence-based practice. It's something we're committed to as well. So subsequent to Rice County's receiving that grant for 7 counties, last year we became aware of the fact that, or actually earlier this year, we became aware of the fact that the state was going to be expanding that evidence-based program and really encouraged counties that had multi-county collaboratives to increase to other counties. And so we, through our partnerships with the local public health association and the like, we decided it was something that we would jump into with our community health board, Fillmore, Houston County. The state approved that expansion, and so that's going to bring approximately $654,000 to Fillmore and Houston County over the next 3.5 years for this type of programming. The total program, if you look through the documentation we sent out, Rice County's grant went from approximately $4.2 million for 7 counties to $4.9 million for now the 9 counties. Most of southeastern Minnesota is covered by some sort of program like this. Mauer and Olmsted have standalone programs, but we're part of this now 9-county consortium. I really want to highlight the work of Mary Zapke and Heather Myrie in the development, the development of this grant project. They work very closely with our partners in Fillmore and also with Rice County and others in the region to put together a winning grant. These were competitive grants. It wasn't just, hey, write a grant and we'll give you the money. And so they wrote an excellent grant and an excellent project. One of the things that I was visiting with Commissioner Burns yesterday, and he asked about, oftentimes you get grants and we can celebrate and say, hey, $650,000, isn't that great? But what happens at the end of that 3.5 years to be able to sustain these great programs? Usually what happens is the county is left holding the bag. And so we've got to figure out how to sustain that. It makes me somewhat, cautious in approaching grant funding because usually it has that type of an effect. The state of Minnesota, the feds, foundations, they like to start things, but they're not as excited about sustaining things. The thing that's really good about this project, however, is that in addition to the dollars that the state is investing in this program through the grant, they're also giving us the ability to have approximately, or more than 2 times the current rate. So if we do a home visit right now, we get about $62 for that visit. If we are using a family or an evidence-based program, we can bill $140. So the sustainability for this program is built in. And actually, we can start billing that as soon as our staff are trained. And so we can use a combination of grant dollars and this enhanced billing to sustain what we're doing. A big part of what we're going to be doing with the grant is the preparation, the training and the like. So, oddly enough, our 2 staff who are going to initially be participating in this, Mary Zapke and Liz Knudsen, are at training this week for this program. So that's kind of a little bit of a summary of what this project is, what we stand to gain, and what we're asking for today is a signature on a memorandum of understanding between Fillmore and Houston with Rice County, because Rice is the host for this grant. Heather, do you have anything you want to add?
Just certainly to add, Mary's been with us for a long time, and Liz is our newer family health hire, and this, Healthy Families America, this evidence-based program also provides some framework for her training and kind of onboarding when it comes to family health. Family health can be kind of an intuitive process when you're going to meet with the family. They might have a lot going on, so providing that template as she comes on board is very helpful for new staff, versus Mary's having to bring her decades of experience. That's something that is just kind of, second nature for her, but it's not always that case for everybody when they first come on board. So we're looking forward to that, providing her some training and guidance. So.
One other thing I failed to mention, and really it's kind of important, is it's the underpinning for why would we even do this. Do we just go and chase money because it's good to have money come here? We're really committed to prevention efforts, and it's hard to find resources to support prevention efforts. This working with at-risk families that have we've interacted with through County Human Services or have other issues that are going on is a good upstream prevention so that we're not dealing with, presumably we'd be not dealing with them in other areas of our programming through child protection and the like. So that's what this type of programming as far as evidence-based is showing. If we are consistent in delivering this program, it has shown in a variety of different places through research methods that it's effective in reducing some of those deep-end costs to counties and really deep-end emotional and family costs to each of the families involved in this. So that's really the heartbeat of this and what we get excited about. It's an opportunity to fund a really high-quality primary prevention type of approach to this work.
I just have, I guess, a procedural question. We've got 2 people training, and we haven't approved this.
We're already part of it. This is a new grant.
Yeah, you approved the application for the grant and the
So
acceptance of the
they're on
grant.
okay.
So this, I actually held off with the memorandum of understanding. We would have had that probably at your last meeting, but I was in the Pacific Northwest on vacation, so.
Yeah, this was voted to apply for, get the grant last fall.
Yeah.
December or November or something like that?
Yeah.
Then just a question on the evidence-based. It's just confusing as to what were we doing previously? Just winging it? I mean,
Well, when a program is evidence-based, it's very expensive to research that, and it's very expensive to implement that. So for a county of our size we look at best practice. So some of the best practices might be rooted in evidence, but to implement every best practice can be costly.
that's a term that I
Oh, okay.
lost best practice.
Yeah, so, we try to look at what are our best practices and what best practices can we take and replicate in Houston. Not every best practice can be done everywhere, depending on the landscape. So that's taking what is best practice and then what, through evidence and research, as identified as evidence-based, best practice-based, and then we replicate that here.
Okay, the reimbursement we get for visits, how, are there regularly scheduled visits, or are they crisis, here we better get out there? Or how?
This particular curriculum is more based upon regularly scheduled visits that are prescribed within the curriculum itself. So families do have things come up. They can be weekly visits to begin with because there's a lot of information for the family home visitor to gather as they're trying to formulate the best plan for this family. If it's, all different family makeups are meant to be addressed through this. And so those weekly visits then, as time goes on, if something comes up and they need to cancel a week, then they need to move that kind of topic, that curriculum-based information to the next week. As time goes on, those visits are spread out further.
Okay.
Then, maybe it's every other week, every few weeks. But it's meant to be a pretty intensive, 52-week commitment for the family and for the family visitor. Now, there's going to be families that with all that experience where they're engaged and something comes up, a crisis like you say, and they maybe have to disengage for a while. That's something that we'll need to navigate when we come to that. But it is meant to be a pretty intensive commitment on the family's part. For it to be effective, it really needs to be.
And then after a year, we can see whether there's evidence that the evidence-based.
There you go, we'll revisit that in a year.
One of the things I'd caution you on is with prevention strategies, it's hard to show lots of return on your investment in the short term. One of the things that's nice about evidence-based programs is they've done those longitudinal studies that, as Heather mentioned, there's no way we could undertake something like that. And so if we believe that is valid research-based programming, then we need to stay committed to it. And the challenge is how do you find the resources to support that? So through these grant dollars and an enhanced reimbursement, we're able to sustain that level of programming.
And I think it's a good thing to point out, as John mentioned, with the state encouraging, I think encouraging evidence-based practice, encouraging the use of best practices. I think we've all had experience where an encouragement then turns into a requirement. So this is an opportunity to take advantage of funding so that we can get our staff up to speed. So we're kind of at that requirement or at that suggested level before it becomes a requirement, and being able to share that cost through a grant.
With regard to the funding aspect of it, when you were talking earlier about sustainability and going from $62 to $140 that we can charge, this is a 3-year grant. When you say sustainability, going from 62 to 140, is that variation in what we charge to cover additional costs because of the program, or are we supposed to take and save that in a reserve account to fund the future of the program?
As I understand it, we can charge some of our visits to the grant, but once our staff are trained, we can also charge the higher rate. We're going to need to see how this pans out. Part of the grant has us identifying a number of families that we're going to recruit initially to do this. If it's effective, we may look at it and say it's worth additional expenditures, and we'll have to pencil that out and say, okay, so what are our costs going to be long term? More than doubling our reimbursement for visits is an encouraging thing, but what that looks like in 3.5 years is a little difficult to predict.
But we're talking about existing staff, or are we adding staff?
You know, right now, the plan when we wrote the grant was with existing staff. Again, as we see this program take off, if we've got a revenue source and a need and an effective program, we may need to take a look at what our capacity is.
And then, from the 62 to 140, that's $78. Are we putting that into a reserve
Is
fund
that going to
then?
be saved somehow, or?
To account for additional staff if necessary for more visits? I mean, we charge this to the grant?
I'm sorry to say that again.
We charge the 140 to the grant?
As I understand it, we can charge some of those visits to the grant, but we can also charge the additional higher rate. And so your question is, say our cost for a visit is $130, and we can charge $140, and we can also charge that to the grant. What are we doing with the additional dollars? That's a great question, and operationally, I'm not sure what the rules of the grant will allow us with invoicing and such. We will want to stay within the rules of the grant so that we're not double dipping, but also try to come up with the most beneficial way to generate revenue for our programming.
And if the program is successful, you would anticipate new grants down the road?
This does have a built-in where they will look at the grant again and at the end of 3.5 years for us or 4.5 years for Rice. There's no guarantee that this grant will still be available. It'll be potentially different administration, different financial situation, but it is something that there is an anticipation that the grant could be refunded at the end.
I'm just thinking that if we have a grant for a year and we're visiting a family and the evidence-based information indicates that it works, we should be having diminishing visits.
With that family.
Right.
Once they've completed,
So that
yes.
family's off the books, then this family's off the books, and we're not a hugely growing county, so we shouldn't be, okay, this one's off, now we got a new one in, this one, now we got, I mean, there
That's
should be a
exactly
point
how
of-
it's meant to go,
Yeah, there
exactly
should be a
what you're
point
saying.
where
So as we move
diminishes.
these families towards the, hopefully more on a path to success,
Hopefully.
as we move them through the program,
Yeah.
you know, there's about 10 to 12. We had to we base that upon 10 to 12 families, 10 to 12 in this program, based upon, with Rice County and the state's suggestion for a county of our size. As we moved some of them off, there is room then for others to come on, should others qualify for that. So it's not meant to be a lifelong.
But a concern may not be a major concern that it will expand exponentially, it could diminish based on getting families straightened up.
Definitely
Or
that.
out.
Yeah.
That would be our hope. What I would say is 10 to 12 families isn't an exhaustive list for our county. But our hope is that the families we're working with will become more stable and need less intervention down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Did you have a question?
Well, if I remember right, you correct me if I'm wrong, but when you guys requested to get this grant, you brought up the example of, you're working with these 10, 12 families already, and you see something coming in down the road, like a new family member they're expecting, this way you can get ahead of it and help them through that process of foreseeable future problems.
That's actually a really good point. I'm glad you brought it up, because this program is, from a public health perspective, is geared at newborns or even prenatal. But we're identifying families that we've interacted with through a variety of different programs that are at risk. So adding a new child to a family that maybe is already having some struggles, this would provide some additional support to that family. So hopefully they don't follow that same trajectory. But it's this evidence-based program that is part of this whole 9-county consortium is really geared at that newborn or even prenatal population. So if we had a family that had 3 children and the youngest was 4, this probably wouldn't be the program for them to participate in. We're wanting to kind of get even further upstream with either a newborn child or prenatal.
There are 8 domains, and this one of them is like low birth weight, preventing, pregnancy outcome of low birth weight, because then that gives another path for that family to deal with other things. So there's 8 domains within that program. Some of them cross very closely with children's services, human services, as far as economic security. There's a variety of things that surround that family to support them and hopefully move them to be more successful and more independent and needing less intervention.
Well, this is a 3-year grant. This is not 1 year.
3.5 years.
Okay.
So it takes us through the end of 2022.
Yeah, so there's like no revisiting after a year. That's what Jack was referring to, or?
We'll keep looking at it,
Right.
and see if it's, but it isn't that we have to re-up the grant until, the grant money will continue until 2022. And for the foreseeable future, that increased rate that we can charge for this evidence-based programming should stay in place as well. Obviously, nothing is forever in this world. If there's changes, we have to evaluate the impact of those changes and make appropriate adjustments to our program.
Any further questions for Heather or John? We're looking for a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with Royce County and our joint powers.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you guys accepted.
1 o'clock.
You want Houston County to come? Yes?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. How are you? Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I do wish to make one clarification. This generator is not just for the Justice Center. This generator serves the historic courthouse as well as serves the historic jail. So it's for this compound here, if you will.
What's the location?
The location is next to the Justice Center. It's in that big fenced cage.
Right behind the sheriff's office.
behind, next to the sheriff's office, behind the service station, next door.
But it covers all 3 facilities.
Yes, yes, it does. And we test it once a month then. So I appreciate the time. This was not an originally budgeted item for this year. I do have funds I can carve out, as you say, Rob, Peter, to pay Paul, carve out to cover this. Just a little bit of history regarding the maintenance agreement, the extended warranty agreement. This is not the first time it's come before the board. It came before the board a couple of years ago. And at that time, the board determined, because we had a 5-year, and this was 5 years old then, a 5-year-old piece of equipment that was, and this is a fairly pricey extended warranty, that it was not, we determined that it wasn't worth we would assume the risk and go forward with our own parts and maintenance. We do have, another point of clarification, we do have a maintenance agreement, an annual maintenance agreement on this piece of equipment. That maintenance agreement is just right around $6,000 per year. This doesn't have anything to do with that maintenance agreement. The maintenance agreement covers annual, twice a year they're out here, I think in March and October, and they also are out here today. Today they're doing a maintenance on our switches, and we're doing a check for the switches. That maintenance agreement includes things like the fuel line, looking at your valves, or doing your oil inspection, your fuel inspection, and those kinds of things. We are responsible though for, just like when you go to a service station, you pay for the parts. But that maintenance agreement covers all of those annual checks. This is a rather large and a little more complex system than what you might have in your Outback Punch house. The extended warranty is for parts and labor. Okay, so the system is now 7 years old. Do we really need that? And that would be something for you to consider. I would say this, last year, we started having difficulty with the injectors. And these injectors run about $1,000 each to replace them. And I think we've spent over $9,000 last year. If I'm not mistaken, and I don't have Greg here, but if I'm not mistaken, this piece of equipment has 12 fuel injectors. We had to replace 9 or 10 of them last year. I believe it was 9. That one-time cost for those ejectors, that would have been covered by, if we had determined that it was reasonable to go with an extended warranty prior to that. Now, normally getting an extended warranty on a piece of used equipment is more difficult, right? Because we have done all this work with the replacing the injectors, we also had a fuel problem last year. Our fuel wasn't tested for sediment or contaminant issues that we had. Part of we didn't know if that was the testing, faulty testing, or if that was our equipment. We got that all ironed out. Our fuel isn't, there isn't a problem with it anymore. So when I talked with the company, which is Caterpillar, Ziegler Caterpillar, they are willing then to offer us an extended warranty at this time now that they have given the final blessing, if you will, to this piece of equipment. So that is the issue before you. One last thing, you notice that we have a 36-month option and a 60-month option, and it all works out to the same annual fee. So why would we buy into a 60-month option rather than the 36? It freezes that price. In other words, so after 3 years, it locks it in for a 5-year period. So when you do the arithmetic, it doesn't look like it's a deal you're getting on the page, but it does lock it in for you. at the same annual rate we have now. So this is prepaid. This is an upfront cost. Like I said, it wasn't included in last year's budget, simply because the year before, we determined that we would not go down this path. So now I'm just offering it back with some changed circumstances after that big cost, to ask you if you wish to do this again. It is true, we might not have any families or have any other parts and labor other than our maintenance. But that is something Greg is the foreman for building maintenance, and I talked about, and you just can't predict the future. So it's here for your consideration.
So what plan are we on, Platinum Plus or Silver or Gold?
For our maintenance agreement?
Yeah.
Our maintenance agreement, I brought it with me, is it's not the Platinum Plus. Here we have the Gold.
It's Gold.
I believe it's the Gold one. I'd have to verify that, Commissioner, with Greg. We'd have to go through that. It's been a while since we did that.
Just
It's not that, my recollection, Commissioner, and it could be an error. We didn't go with the least, we didn't go with the greatest. We went with the more moderate one.
Yeah, looks like there's 4. There's Silver, Gold, Platinum, and Platinum Plus.
Well, I know it's not platinum.
Okay.
I guess what bothers me about it is we pay $6,000 for maintenance. And then we have 9 injectors that go bad. That's not part of the maintenance.
Those parts fail. Maintenance is your fuel testing, your filters, your air filters, your checking the valves, checking the lines, checking the flow, those kinds of things are tested. So that when we do have a power failure, it kicks in. I believe we have fuel to run. It's still right now running. I'd have to verify this. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, 12 hours. which
Do you
is
have
more
any
than
idea?
enough.
Any idea what this item cost us? No.
I have it in the records, I don't recall.
It just, it bothers me when I buy home appliances. Oh, here, I'm buying this brand new piece of equipment. Oh, but you're gonna want the warranty, aren't you? You know what I mean? It's like, are you selling me junk or, I can't expect it to last for 3 years, or in this case, I mean, it just seems, because we'll be spending the 6 to maintain it, and then we'll be spending the 11 to fix it because it wasn't maintained to the degree that it lasted. I mean, I just...
The injectors failed, and we replaced any, Greg and I spoke, and at that time we determined, along with talking with Ziegler, it wasn't, I don't believe all 9 failed, but there's a couple of them were questionable, and we went ahead because of the risk of not having the equipment up and running. We went ahead and replaced the couple of more.
You might as well do them all, not just part of it.
Yeah, with that history, you'd probably expect we going to.
The equipment is, questions have come up. I don't have any way of knowing this myself. I do not have this particular expertise in this area. The equipment, I understand, is more than, is probably a larger piece of equipment than what we really needed. Okay. I understand that, so maybe we did spend more than we needed to originally. That is kind of watering the bridge at this point in time, though. The question, we have a 24/7 operation at the jail. We can't afford not to have a piece of equipment that runs and kicks in when we need it. We have computer equipment that would be at risk. Like I said, to they, is it today, they're looking at the switches. And the switches is both in the Justice Center as well as where we have the panel, and that maintenance can flip the switches manually as well as the automatic. It's costly to have them come out and they look at every aspect of it.
Well, I
I
understand the importance of it, I just, I'm bothered by us assuming the risk for 11,000 and their piece of equipment, they're assuming no risk. Unless
It's our piece of equipment.
Well, yeah, if they
And
sold it to us.
I would like to think now that we have worked the bugs out of it, if you will, we may never, not in the foreseeable future, near future, have any more issues with it. It's not run that frequently, it's tested frequently, but it's not relied upon that frequently, so we don't have that many hours on it.
130 the way it looks.
Yeah, it's a minimal number of hours. Now, injector failure, to me, usually equates with a fuel problem. And you refer to a fuel problem.
Which we corrected.
And what's going on there?
I have to have a more in-depth conversation, take
Yeah, okay.
a little more detailed notes on that. Come back to you.
I will visit you about that.
I know we had them back and forth a couple of times in the, I'm going to say, early spring, during spring, to clean up our fuel problem, and it's now testing appropriate fuel.
Of course,
But that's
with-
part of
with
the
a low-
6,000 we're already paying.
Yeah, who provides the fuel?
With a low usage unit like this,
You figured
fuel problems are almost inherent in that.
you gotta change out the fuel, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, that's what I was wondering. That's what we'll have to talk about. I don't want to take a point
And
out.
we-
That'd be part of the maintenance.
It should be.
Part of that 6,000 we're already paying is for
Yeah,
maintenance.
I would assume that would be part of that $6,000 that we're paying now, is that they will change out that fuel periodically.
Well, it's tested, and then they
Yeah.
determined last spring it does not,
Wasn't passing.
it wasn't passing. The question that came up was whether it was their testing or our equipment that was causing this. We went
Or is it the fuel, or is it their
or
tank?
fuel, or their tank, all of that. It took quite a while to iron that out. I know now it is cleaned up. One of the things I was wondering was whether we had to change out all that fuel, and we did not. I don't know how they cleared the problem up. I'd have to get that information to you. But it's cleared up now to the point that they're willing to warrant it.
So this is a 60-month deal there?
Pardon me?
This is a 60-month,
Yes, it's payment up front. It was good for 5 years.
it's good for 5 years. What if we were to trade 2 years down the road? Are we still liable for that, or would that be transferable?
I did look at that. There is it's a good question. I don't have the answer to it. I know there's a clause in here that the refund is not,
It's not refundable.
Yeah.
So we'd be locked.
and you
Would
always
we be better to do
renegotiate
it?
things. And
Would we be better to do a 3-year or a 2-year, or
well, if you anticipate switching the equipment out, I think that might be.
well, we're approaching how many years old it is?
7, approaching 8.
What's the theoretical useful life of that piece of machinery?
I'm just pulling it out of the air. I would say
I
that
know,
putting that
I
as
understand.
a budget,
It's extremely difficult when you
It's
have a
speculation
low-use
on my part.
unit. A high-use unit is probably going to last longer than a low-use unit, just because that's the way it is.
Well, that begs the question whether we should just start spending more on fuel and running it a bit longer. And I can have that conversation with Correct.
So you exercise it every month?
And we coincide it with the local drill, the local horn, Claxon.
Now, you were saying that it was, when it was purchased, it actually ended up being a little overkill, so we could get something smaller?
Well, that is what I'm told. I don't, like I said, I can't confirm that that was the discussion at the
Okay.
time. Whether that's accurate, I cannot confirm that. It is a big unit.
But it covers 3 facilities too. Yes.
Covers the 3 facilities. It also allows for expansion as far as whatever might happen on this campus, from the old jail point of view and whatnot. What we add is it's going to accommodate taking care of additional need in the future. The 5-year, 60-month contract being the same price as the 3-year contract, we're covered on a piece of equipment that's going to be 12 years old by the time this contract is up. Now we get to where we might be looking at getting something different. But it locks in the price. I mean, prices are going up all the time as far as equipment. We got tariffs and whatnot, so prices are going up. This protects us in that regard. Furthermore, like Tess said, she can work this into the budget without any additional cost to the budget. So it's covering us for the future. If anything goes wrong, we're covered for 5 years without affecting the budget, and the future budgets are preserved as far as maintenance or repairs on this piece of equipment.
I thought it wasn't worked into the budget for this year.
It's not, but she
It
said
is
she
not, I
could
am
work
going
it to
to
make it fit.
make it fit into the budget this year, so it's not going to be an added cost for future budgets.
Well, yeah, once it's added in, but it should have been added in for this year, right?
No, not necessarily. It could have been, the board rejected this 2 years ago.
So this won't go into effect till
So this was
next year?
rejected 2 years
It
ago?
will go into effect, I believe, immediately upon signature. In fact,
So we haven't had a maintenance agreement for 2 years?
No, we have maintenance,
we
not,
had maintenance agreements, Commissioner, we haven't had an extended warranty agreement for parts and labor.
If I remember right, this was up in a couple $100,000 category for that piece of equipment.
It's a very
No, but I'm
expensive.
sure it's expensive, I believe that.
And Commissioner, now this is just, like I said, throwing ideas on the table. I don't know the feasibility of this at all. With a piece of equipment of that size, and maybe we do need to run it longer, whatever, we can look at what we can do to make sure we extend the life of that asset. With a piece of equipment that size, maybe it is a resource that we could tie in, and maybe this isn't appropriate, I don't know, I'm just throwing an idea on the table. City offices, in case of, there's some kind of emergency that impacts everyone, we can have this extend to the greater benefit of other, maybe the police station down the road as well. I don't know what that would really entail. I haven't examined that. But I mean, before we start trading down, if you will, I would like to look and see what are the opportunities that we might be able to offer, since this is for this period of time. And there might not be much. I mean, that might entail something that's so overwhelmingly expensive that we aren't going to do it, or they aren't going to do it.
Hooking them up into the system, I would guess would be extremely expensive.
Probably.
The lines and the
Yep.
switches.
Yeah, it'd be a complicated nightmare.
Yep, that's why I said, but I just always try to think of the what-ifs before I run out, but I think it's
So-
cost prohibitive.
Just so I understand, the cost is going to be $11,160 per year, is that correct?
No, sir. The cost is going to be a one-time fee of
For the
$11,160
60-month coverage?
for a 60-month
Okay,
coverage.
I just want to make sure I understood that.
I can relate to what Jack was talking about as far as buying a warranty when you get an appliance and then they want to sell you a 3-year warranty on a brand new one, which they know how long it's going to last in the first place. But
This is a different...
this is a different situation. We're into the 7th year. It'll carry us out for 12 years. I mean, we're getting older and there's more likelihood of things that could go wrong with it. It's an absolute necessary piece of equipment as far as the Justice Center is for sure. And this is unusual because it's at the end of the life that you're getting the warranty, not at the beginning of the life, so it kind of makes sense in that regard.
So this covers parts and labor. So
That's
the
what they're
injectors go-
telling us.
Those injectors go out again.
Those injectors go out,
It's gonna get, it'll be covered.
and that was I remember after we determined not to do this the first time, and we had the new purchase warranty that came with the purchase. And then we decided, oh, what can go wrong, the county did, and determined not to buy the extended warranty, and lo and behold,
The injectors.
the injectors go out, and it's like,
So you could have paid for that with the extended warranty if you would have had it at the
and
time.
we'd still be covered. The other thing I would add to this, Commissioner Burns, is not just 24/7 operation there. Remember, you have your IT here. And so,
Now, this unit is the motor and the generator as a complete unit? Yeah.
and I would say, and I'm not trying to frighten you into a decision. This is clearly something that has to be weighed carefully. If it fails, we are going to pay to have it, we will have it fixed immediately. The question is, so it's not that we're going to put all these other things at risk. We will make sure that we get them out here and get it up and operational.
The other fear from my perspective is we run it once a month. If we have a storm in the middle of the summer, halfway between the two runnings and it fails then, now it's not serving the purpose of what we've got it for in the first place. So we have to stay up to date and get.
Well, and there are, what's the word I need? Alarms that go off that we observe both in the Justice Center and I believe, because a lot of our equipment, those alarm notifications go straight to Greg as well. They go over to Winona Controls. We try to build some redundancy into some of these, if we have equipment failures, switch failures with different systems in the Justice Center, whether it's this switch failure for this or switch failure on some of our other systems over there. So if I'm understanding your concern, Commissioner, if this were to fail, we would, before the storm or during the storm, we would immediately know that before we have to kick it in because we know what the failure was hopefully before you need it. I suppose if there's a tornado that comes and takes that plus our facility, nothing we can do that.
I was just looking over the coverages here. And is there a deductible that we'd have to pay, like if for the failure, major failure?
It doesn't say that on the form.
It's not my are you reading that there's one? Because when
Well,
I
I'm just,
talked to them,
under it says authorized representative, but there's all the coverage fees, coverage period, deductible, delivery date, all this. I'm just trying to find out if there's...
I am told, I was told directly a couple of times, this covers all parts, all labor.
No deductible.
No, if you,
It says deductible is the amount customer agrees to pay per visit for mechanical breakdown. But it doesn't give an amount.
It doesn't yet, so I'm trying to find out if there is one. I don't know.
we did not negotiate a deductible.
Okay.
It's a good question.
If it's buried through, I asked very specifically about total cost to us.
Well, if we can get a 5-year extended warranty on a, how old was this thing now? On a 7-year piece of equipment with no deductible, I think it's a no-brainer. I just want to make sure that's the case.
Commissioner, I will
You want to find
get
out?
them on the phone before executing this agreement. I will get them on the phone and get ask for a written confirmation and email about that. And if I get a written confirmation email about that, then
Because they keep
Depending
bringing
upon
up
your
less
action.
any applicable deductible.
and see, there, to my knowledge, there's not an applicable deductible. So they write these things to cover every kind of agreement they have with different people. But I will get that in, and I'll forward that to you.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate it, because that's something that needs to be followed up on.
So is that something we wait until the next regular meeting to decide, or how long is it?
Well, because
There's a timeline.
there's a timeline here, if you could make it conditioned upon confirmation of no deductible.
I'll move to approve the 60-month agreement for the warranty on parts and labor with the notation that dependent upon the no deductible aspect of the contract.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? I think that before we go into closed session for the administrator's annual review, we should do the discussion items first so that that's okay with the rest of the board, kind of changing
I
the
think
agenda.
so, because we'll have a better handle all the time now.
Yeah. Okay,
We do have 1 o'clock.
yes, yes. We have to be there.
Pretty much.
Okay, administrator updates.
Okay, just a couple quick ones. Again, September 11th, reminder of the Houston County Township Officer Association dinner meeting. And I was asked to re-encourage participation in the AMC Fall Policy Conference.
I would mention, well, I was going to mention that I have signed up to go to the AMC because I am on the Human Services Policy Committee. However, I made a reservation for Wednesday night rather than try to drive to in the morning. That's the same night as the township dinner. So, anyway, thinking, boy, there's potential.
The dinner isn't really a meeting though, it's just a dinner.
Yeah, that's not a,
Yeah, so it's not that you're gonna miss anything
Just
governmental.
miss with the
right?
good food.
Yeah. So just.
So are you
thought I'd
saying
mention it.
Wednesday and Thursday then?
Yeah.
So, that's good, Jack, I'm glad you're going to that. I really would like to, but I have workforce and EMS that same Thursday.
I would like to do that too, but I'm not registered yet. I'm just going to see how my health situation is by that time.
Where is that?
Alexandria.
It's a nasty drive.
Yeah, it is. And I
It's
just
a
felt,
lot of-
In the morning, boy, yeah.
yeah, I just felt that if I'm on the committee, I should participate, otherwise not be on the committee. It is a long drive. I drove it in the morning last time, that's why I decided to go the evening this time.
Yeah.
Well,
If you hit that Minneapolis,
if it's at least 2 people going, then we split the drive.
yeah.
You take the Twin Cities part and I'll do something.
So do we want Jeff to register us for the dinner meeting?
I'll be going, yeah.
And I will be going to the 3 for the, sure, to the township dinner.
The township dinner is at what time?
Wednesday night, I think it starts at 6, 7 o'clock each.
I've got a rehearsal starts at 7 and another one at 8. I'm going to make the township dinner.
Okay. Okay, so 3 of us will register us. Okay,
Starts at
and
6
Jack for sure, and possibly Fred for the policy meeting. I'm on the public safety, and I think cannabis is going to be big discussion on that one. You can sit in on that one, maybe.
That there will be.
Uh-huh. Okay, anything else?
I can attend that if you wish me to go. service plan. Then, let's see, we've received a request from Dennis and Annette Holt to have the lease for the 22-acre parcel outside of town. They would wish to extend that lease since we've got that, and we're running through sample looking at it. I wanted to mention that to the board and see if the board was interested in entertaining that, or
We're not gonna do a bid.
that would be an option as well. I think I'd have to look and verify that their extension option.
Is that on 1 year?
No, it's a 3-year lease. Their current lease expires in 2020.
But they're requesting another 3.
That's the way it's always been done, has been rebid it after 3 years.
Yeah, you've got a 3-year lease and then it's rebid.
Yeah.
We might wind up losing on that.
But they asked for an extension to the contract?
Yes, they asked to,
Is that in the contract that they can extend that?
I'll have to verify that.
I don't think so, but usually it's up for it's just rebid.
That's a question of whether we want to do a 3-year lease. I mean, there has been conversation about selling that property.
Well, that's why I would bring that up too, is that if we're gonna, at the end of after the crop year this year, that would give us an opportunity to consider trying to sell that piece of property. So we might not wanna do a bid, so.
Put a hold on it.
Yeah.
Well, we could do a 3-year and add a condition.
Right.
And
If time gets away from us and we're not doing anything, yeah.
The lease already has a clause that we could terminate it.
I thought that was there, I didn't know
It
for
can be
sure.
terminated at any time, but he can still get his crop out.
Yes.
But actually, no,
Well,
he might have to, he could get paid for it too, so. If we wanted to build something right,
Yeah.
cut it down, but I don't think that'd be a good deal.
There's a big deal, sorry, yesterday. Here's a big deal, sorry.
So we'll just, yeah, I think we should just consider a rebid for the time being until we decide further.
And forwarded, or in the package was the statistics from the solid waste collection day in La Crescent. Very good turnout across the board, very positive comments from the solid waste folks over in La Crescent, or in La Crosse with how it was run and what was collected. I have asked them to look at what it would take to add an additional solid waste collection day into the cycle the next year around. I know we had some folks that were turned away, especially up in the rest, so. You know, it's a mix of, it's a nice service to offer here within the county, and for people bringing stuff right to us and collect it. And it is a big time commitment because the folks from Ross come over and man that as well. And all of us are able to take our stuff right to La Crosse and turn it in there any day of the week. So it's that balance of
It's at
providing
their
service
cost, so
locally.
this is a reduced cost.
Yeah.
I did, being on solid waste, I worked with Julie pretty close, and I did receive only one complaint of somebody that they could not get in. There was such a long waiting line. But then we heard people that got in, took all their stuff in, and then when it was checked over, they decided they weren't gonna pay, so they loaded it all back up again.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, so there was a few instances of that, to which there again takes our staff a lot of time. I also talked with Aaron about a different site, and one of them that we kind of mentioned was the La Crescent Township site where there's no trains. We could set it up where we could put it inside our portion of the shed. So they're gonna look at an alternative site where we could be open more hours too. So, but
Is
yeah.
that just for the hazardous waste pickup or for
Just
the
for
weekly?
just for the hazardous waste, because we don't want that on a Saturday, because they're already busy enough on Saturdays. We want it on a Monday.
Special
or
day.
a second time.
Teresa mentioned the railroad anthem. I don't think I related this story, but I was bringing things to the site, and the train was blocking the track for an extended period of time, and there were about 3 people trying to get out of the site. So after And I don't know how long was there before I arrived, but if I sat there another 15 minutes at least. So finally the train passed and the first pickup truck coming out, here's the guy, I had to yell at him to wake him. But it does get to be a real pain when people are,
I know.
you know,
And
trying to-
Julie said they did run into 3 trains that went through. They did not stop, but it still stops everybody else. So that's another reason to move it to a different location.
Yeah, because I talked to
Those
Eric
trains
too, he
are
said
2
it was
miles
all
long,
the
some of them. Those trains are 2 miles long.
Yeah,
Those
I know.
miles, they ain't moving very
The
fast.
Crescent's got a speed limit too.
I know.
They're really
here.
slow.
They still do blow the horns about 3 AM though. Even though that's no
That's
horn.
required though.
I know.
Every Crescent.
But it went really good, and Julie put in a lot of hours with it, and she also had worked the fair all weekend besides, so she had her 60 hours in on 3 days. Did a wonderful job though. Okay, commissioner reports. Unless you had something else, just okay. Fred?
Okay, the finance committee meeting that we had this morning, and I better get my notes out. And Bob will probably want to add to this.
My notes are usually really good.
We kind of anticipated this in the beginning, and it is a accounting and budget problem when we combine the public health service and the human services departments. I don't know if everybody's aware of it, but there are different revenue streams that flow through public health and flow through human services. And they're trying to get the two things combined so that it all makes sense and so that it will all work to our advantage without a whole lot of extra bookkeeping. But at this point, it's being a pain. But if she says it'll get better, I'm sure it will. Okay? One other thing that came out of this, we kind of fiddled around with it a couple of years ago and never really got done with it. It died basically because of a lack of staff time to deal with it. Procurement policy. The auditor has written us up, or will be officially writing us up, on the lack of a up-to-date procurement policy. And so we are looking at, we'll have to get that done. That's a good thing. We needed to for a while. There just, staff time just wasn't conducive to get it done. From the auditor, treasurer, we heard that all transfers from one fund to another that go through the treasurer's office will now have to be reported to the board.
To who?
Board, us. Which is going to mean a bit more paper or a bit more looking at the computer screen. There's got to be a workaround for that, because some of that just doesn't make any difference to us really. It's minute stuff, but somebody thinks it's necessary somewhere. Jeff talked about trying to find a way out of this, but we'll see what happens. And then there are, of course, additional costs related to the primary election. In previous years, we've always had the party caucuses. Now we're having primary elections. That's the cost. And Theoretically, the state will absorb that. We should absorb. But the process has started trying to figure out, okay, what are our costs going to be? And then you kind of pass that on up the line to the state, and they put it in the big computer in the sky, and they figure out what it's actually going to maybe come out to. They say that we will be completely reimbursed. We're sure hoping so. And
I have doubts with the state on those kind of, we'll look at it.
I shouldn't laugh, I really shouldn't, but
You have a wood railing over there, you can knock on that.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Either way, we have to do it. I mean,
Well, yeah, we got no choice, we gotta get it done.
Elections are very
We gotta
busy.
run the election, we gotta run it right.
Yeah.
If we're House of Bucks, we're House of Bucks, we gotta do it, that's all.
Speaking of finance, we went to a joint meeting last week with other commissioners, and I think I did mention it to the rest of the board that Wabasha County ended up this past year because they had change in their finance departments that they were not cross-trained to do each other's, and they ended up combining all their finance people so that they knew each other's job a little bit, and they're very happy with it. And he said, please contact us if you have any questions. So I'm here with other counties, be worth asking questions.
That was, my understanding is, that was done here, or tried to have some of that done here some years ago. Maybe Carol, you want to speak to it, maybe one of you might have been, or both of you might have been on the board at the time, but it, for whatever reason, it didn't happen.
Yeah, it just didn't happen. There wasn't, there was one meeting and it never went past that. It should be researched, but,
How long ago was that, Carol?
well, probably 4 years ago, 6 years ago. You were, Jack, you were a commissioner then and attended the meeting.
And you're testing my memory?
Bingo.
So, whenever you were.
I think it should be revisited, quite frankly.
Yes.
I think
Well,
it's a-
after having a conversation with Wabasha, they said at least look into it. Talk to them. It's worth checking. It's restructuring.
I mean, in 8 to 10 years, when you think about retiring, we have some.
Anything else, Fred?
No, I'm done, thank you.
Commissioner Burns?
I concur with everything Fred said.
Okay.
That's
That's it?
That's it.
I don't have anything pertaining too much to county, except for over the weekend, I received a message on my phone at home that from a constituent in Union Township that lives along County 20. And when I started listening to the message, I thought, oh boy, here we go. But you know what? He gave us praise on fixing County 20, putting the gravel down, and he understood the situation of the difficult year of getting something done with the roads because of the weather and the circumstances, but he actually gave us a compliment. He thought that the highway department deserved kudos from him and thanks for their efforts and getting there, because the road is in the best shape it's ever been, and he's lived there for quite a few years, so I just thought I should pass that on.
Nice to hear.
Yeah, you don't get many compliments, you get a lot of complaints, but when you get compliments, I think it should be mentioned, so.
Thank you.
And just a side note, I was at the state fair over the weekend, and Houston County was represented well.
Which day were you there?
Saturday.
Yeah, so there's hardly anybody else there. Oh, my God.
It was a lot of people. But we were at the livestock show, and Houston County was represented well in the dairy show, and we walked through the buildings, and so I just wanted to mention that.
We were just amazed that with my wife and daughter and the size of the horses, the
Draft horses.
draft horses. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we watched the show at 6 o'clock that night. The wagon, the 6-horse hitch. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Did you, either one of you happen to hear an attendance total for Saturday?
It wasn't a record because my grandson's working in one of the French fry places, and I said, Simon, that had to be a record Saturday, and he said, no, there was a day last year that was higher apparently, but it had to be close.
We went Friday and it was a record Friday.
It was.
157.
Yeah, there's tons of people.
Well, and it's what I was saying, it's one big smorgasbord.
It's an expensive sport.
I had a $12 turkey leg.
I had a $9 chicken breast.
And I love to do fried olives.
Oh, really?
With or without the Bloody Mary?
Without.
I'm glad
Not
we
at this
special
food
trip
anymore.
up there sometime just to get that.
Oh, you eat good. Big likes to eat like Snicker bars.
What are those things called that they're like dough and then you put powdered sugar on them?
Funnel cake?
Funnel cakes, yeah. I had one of those too, of course.
Did you stop at the Spring Grove Pop Stand?
I didn't see
Yeah, I
it
saw
this year.
that, yeah.
I did last year, but I didn't see it this year.
I saw it. yeah.
We stopped and talked to the Wisties for a while.
Yeah. Are you done here?
Yes, I'm done.
Speaking of Spring Grove, my comments are mainly EDA connected. I went to the opening or the showing of Joe's Coffee House in Red's IGA. Very, very well done. I talked to Allison this morning and she said she's got pictures of people are using it and are pleased with it. It's really, like I said, really well done. And then I talked to Aaron. I was curious how the hops gathering went, and he said very well, or Allison was describing all of the different farm-related stands or presentation, whatever they did. Different people selling their goods from small vegetable farming in the area, so thought it went very well. I saw this morning going through Hoka that the Sidewalk Cafe is about to open using local artisans and locally grown goods and so on. And then Dr. J's on the Pike that's been kind of vacant, not kind of, it's been vacant for a while. Has a lot of activity. I'm not sure, I should just pop in and see who's running it, but it's buzzing again, so that's a good thing. So some new activity in the county.
I think there's a meat market opening this weekend in Caledonia too.
That's the rumor, yeah.
I'm not gonna promise it.
Is that factual or is it
That's
rumor?
rumor. That's what's online.
Oh, it is online.
There's a sign by the building that's open whatever day.
It was Friday that they're gonna open.
And slowly but surely in Houston, the meat market and butcher shop is gonna be up and running. It's taken some time because they're doing a lot of the work themselves to save money, so eventually that'll be coming over too.
Is that the one with the best rub in the whole state?
No, that was the River Market.
Oh, that was-
Yeah.
Okay, I have, go
No,
ahead.
you're going ahead.
Okay. I did write to Jeremy Miller and Greg Davids about asking if there was any possibility for state funds for a juvenile jail in Winona, and he is going to get back to me on that. Because, and I think Commissioner Burns also wrote, expressing that that's more of a need in this southeast Minnesota than another jail. So I did express that. I think we need to get our hotel reservations for the AMC December conference if we want to be in the same venue as the actual convention. Otherwise, we'll be out where they bus you in. You know?
I assume everybody plans to attend.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's actually an extra day this year.
And the date, what's the date?
December 7th. I can tell you in a second. It's actually December 8th through the 11th
9 to 11.
in St. Cloud.
AMC annual.
In St. Cloud.
In St. Cloud. 9, 10, and 11 is that, but you have to get there before.
Okay, St. Paul or St. Cloud?
St. Cloud,
St. Cloud this time.
Yeah,
yes.
I'll get reservations.
But if we can get them at the same place, it rarely happens, we've got to give it a try. And I see they're available on the 1st of September, so it's set on the
Is
website.
there something the night of the 8th that we're supposed to be there for, or is that?
It just said it starts at 7 on Monday morning. I think I have a meeting because I'm a delegate for our region on Sunday afternoon.
But I wouldn't have to go
You wouldn't have,
Sunday, I could go out Monday morning.
right.
When
Yeah,
does anybody remember how far ahead of time we actually get the program?
Get the program.
Yeah,
It should be out pretty quick.
list of events.
We think so.
Yeah. It should be out after the 1st of September.
Monday morning early things are special things, and the general herd doesn't have to show up until noon or something, so,
Okay.
yeah.
As soon as it's available, I'll send it to everybody.
Yeah.
It's not out yet.
And I'm actually going to have an AMC meeting tomorrow for extension up at the State Fair. So I will talk to the people, Julie and Heather, facilitating part of that extension meeting. So I will ask them about the agenda too. And so the best part of it is I get free parking right outside the gate to the State Fair.
We got, Janet has a woman she used to teach with, lives right next to the fair.
Oh, God.
And so we
Yes.
parked in her, which was very nice.
Saved you a little money.
Mhm.
So you'll get us registered for that. I had a solid waste meeting last week from 9 to noon, which I went to with Julie, with the joint board over in the cross. And one of the, I won't go into detail on all the things we discussed in 3.5 hours, but one thing that they're really finding is getting to be a problem is recycling and garbage at events. So like Houston Hold Down Days, they only had garbage containers. Well, no staff is going to go through and try and pick recyclables out of it. So they're really going to be asking the different, wherever you get the permit from, that it's part of the permit process that you will have recycling containers and garbage containers. Because it's getting to be a real major problem. So I
The problem being that there's recyclable materials in the garbage.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
mean,
It's all
It's
garbage.
not a problem per se, I mean,
No,
the
no.
recyclables will go through the garbage just like the regular garbage.
Yes.
It's
Right.
just that it should be recycled, but
It
it's...
should be recycled. We really encourage recycling.
That isn't actually costing them any money, it's just additional materials that they're using to
Yeah,
generate
plus it goes
electricity.
to Excel and stuff, and we can only have so many tons, and
Yeah.
so it could turn into a problem.
Right.
Anyway,
I've been at events in
I
other
don't think-
places where they've had that, where they've had separate events.
Right.
It's not that.
mhm.
Then it's up to the people to actually...
I don't think
Yes.
we put out any
Yeah,
permits
that's where the
Yeah.
issue is.
So that was one of the major things that they discussed. And that's all I had.
I have one more to add.
Okay.
Did get a note from Olivia, met with the Minnesota Homeland Security Emergency Management to go over the final numbers for the, was it the July 18th, 19th storm event period? And they've determined our eligible jurisdictions, Hoka, Bunny Creek Township, Mount Prairie Township, Crescent Township, and Houston County, have approximately $461,000 in damage from the storms that will bill reimbursement for.
Houston Township's not in there.
He is not, but I will verify that with her. It's
Does that, we get 80% of that, or is that?
75%.
75%.
Yeah, if you could verify that, let me know.
Are you aware if they submitted the order?
I'm pretty sure they did.
Okay, I will check on that.
Sounds good. Maybe we'll, before we go into closed session again, we'll see if there's any public comment.
I just wanted to bring up one more thing. And I'm sure this is on behalf of all of us, thoughts and prayers to Bob Reeder, former deputy of Houston County. So I just wanted to say that.
Good guy.
Okay, any closing comments? Then I'll look for a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Need a motion at this time to accept his annual review, and the next one, unless circumstances change, will be a year from now.
I would just add that to that motion that, maybe it'll die for lack of a second, but I would like to see a more extensive self-evaluation document than we have.
Now or for the next evaluation?
Oh, I just don't see it now.
And now is how much time?
Oh, what? What's reasonable? 2 weeks?
Okay.
4 weeks?
2 weeks is fine.
4 weeks is a week.
Okay,
I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I have one little, small little, my 8 personality. I looked at our December schedule, and the second and the fourth Tuesdays, first one is
I have
we're at
a-
EMC, and the fourth one is Christmas Eve.
Yep.
So do we wanna?
No, so the revised schedule here
Oh, was
is,
it
no,
revised?
well, the schedule that was posted originally had us meeting on the 10th and the 17th of December. Well, the 10th is now when AMC conference is, so we will move the full meeting to the 3rd of December, that week,
Okay.
the first week, and then the 17th of December will be our final full board meeting
Okay.
of December. Been working with the staff here on the schedule to do the final budget reviews, levy approvals and such, and so.
We get done by the end, by 17th?
Yes, yeah. So the truth and taxation, right now I'm penciling in for the 2nd of December
Okay,
to hold the truth and taxation meeting. And I will
it's always a fun meeting.
send the revised schedule out to you,
Okay.
now that we've got that.
Sounds good.
Give me those dates again.
So the,
Truth and taxation is the second.
The second, we're
The
second.
3rd is a regular meeting, and the 17th is a regular meeting.
Right.
And at that time, we'll have to set the final levy.
yeah, the 3rd will be our first opportunity to set the final levy, or you can wait till the final
Yeah.
meeting on the 17th.
Now, if we don't have it set, doesn't mean we can't call a special meeting, because we've got until, I think, the 28th.
You've got until the end of December, yes, we could do a special.
Yeah, that's
So if
what
we
I'm
have some
kinda-
issues, we can set a special meeting
All right.
Yes.
to go to that.
Yeah. So looking at next week is the 3rd of September, intend to do a budget review workshop with the board and the department heads. The 10th of September, at our regular meeting there, I will have the public hearing to address our proposed fee schedule changes. We're required to do a public hearing on that. So we'll address some proposed fee changes and then seek board approval there. That's our first opportunity to approve the levy, but we really have until the 24th of September. That full board meeting would be when we would have to have the approval of the preliminary levy.
Tentative budget.
Preliminary levy.
Are you talking fee changes at the drop sites?
Across the board, across the county. All the recorder's fees,
I
the.
talked to Aaron
Mhm.
this
Yep.
morning because, I said I used to save aluminum cans for my grandson, and I remember at one time getting 65 cents a pound. I think they're
Mhm.
about 10 cents a pound now, so,
I don't know, it's that high, but,
yeah, it's,
yeah.
it's just falling out in plastic, I mean,
Mhm.
save it for what?
Mhm.
Maybe it's time to
think of a different alternative, whether that, what that could be, I don't know, but.
Alternative fee schedule.
4 minutes after 12, folks. Be
Yep.
careful.
Need to hit the road.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned, Fred, go eat.